gathered on the Before we begin, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Lummi, Nooksack, Samish, and Semiahmoo people who have cared for and tended this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order for February 26, 2024. Welcome, everyone. We have a number of new folks, so I think we're going to go around and do introductions. Jill, could you call them off of your screen so we have a consistent order instead of people just jumping in and out?
Sure, I can do that. Arlene Feld.
You're on mute, Arlene.
I represent Touchstone. I'm teaching interns, counselors at this stage. I've served on, a lot of the boards, the Police Chiefs Council for 5 years, Advisory Council, the Interfaith Coalition for a couple of years. And I guess I'm representing behavioral health.
Okay.
You, Arlene. Barry?
Yeah, hi, Barry Buchanan. I'm chair of the Whatcom County Council and then the designated representative to the IPRTF from the council.
Bertie?
Good morning. I'm Bertie Safford. I'm a almost completely retired family physician who practiced in Ferndale as part of Family Care Network for 40 plus years. I was one of the first doctors to be certified to do medical assisted treatment of substance abuse disorder. So I have experience with that. And I've done a lot of administrative work with performance measurement and data kinds of things. I'm new to the committee, but I have watched and attended all the SAC meetings and the IPRTF meetings for the last 2 years because I'm very interested in this. So I'm a new face, but I feel like I know the process.
Bruce?
Good morning. I'm Bruce Van Glupt. I'm the District Court and Probation Administrator, and I've been on this group since, I think, the beginning.
Dan?
Good morning, everyone. Dan Hamill, President of Bellingham City Council. I serve as the co-chair for the Behavioral Health Committee along with Mike Parker, and I've served on the Legal and Justice Systems Committee, and I've served on like 30 plus boards and commissions since I started 10 years ago. Thanks.
Darlene?
Good morning. I'm Darlene Peterson. I'm the court director for the city of Bellingham, and I believe I've been with this group since the beginning.
Evan?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Judge Jones. Thank you for having me. I've been speaking with Judge Freeman, and I understand I'm going to be assuming some of his responsibilities on the task force. I'm looking forward to that. I have a history in as a lawyer in criminal law. I have some experience with constitutional law. I teach constitutional criminal procedures class at the college. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot from everybody who I recognize, quite a few of you, but just participating with the task force. I'm looking forward to that.
Deborah? Deborah, you're muted.
I'm sorry. My name is Deborah Hawley, and I'm serving, I believe it's year 6, my second term, 4-year term on the task force. And I'm also on the Legal and Justice Subcommittee. So I represent the position of a consumer, meaning that in my situation, my son has been a long time consumer of jail and prison involvement for a couple of decades plus. And in being in that experience, I turned my pain into purpose, if you will, many years ago. And it was about 14 years ago, I started a support and information group in Whatcom County for those who have incarcerated loved ones. That meeting is still going to date. I've worked a lot in legislative bills in Olympia that have to do with these issues. And my main interest is in increasing public awareness about our jail and prison populations. And as probably most of you know, we have a lot of mass incarceration going on in the United States. Anyway, I do some other stuff too, but I'm a certified Washington State counselor that hopes to start working with some of these affected populations in that capacity. Thank you.
Laura.
Hi, good morning. My name is Laura Singletary, and I am the administrative manager in the prosecutor's office. And today I am representing Eric Ritchie, who has a meeting with the governor.
Eric.
Hello, everybody. Eric Peterson. I am the field administrator for Section 6 in the Washington State Department of Corrections. That means I cover 7 counties: Snohomish County north to Whatcom County, and west to Jefferson and Clallam County, including the San Juans. I've been with DOC for 27 years. 20 of those were as a community corrections officer in Bellingham, Whatcom County, 6 years as a supervisor, and I've been in this role for a year.
Heather.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. Okay. I'll be at my desk in a minute, but I didn't want to miss introductions. This is also my toddler's morning drop-off time. So Heather Flaherty, I'm here appointed as a concerned citizen. My day job is running the Chuckanut Health Foundation. Very honored to do that. And I actually, fun fact, was in the room when the Incarceration Task Force was conceived with council members Ken Mann and Carl Weimer, and WAHA leadership and Peace Health leadership, and got to help draft the ordinance that established this task force, and have attended nearly every meeting since. So it's an honor to be here. And I come at incarceration with a very strong community health perspective. And I also lost my mom personally when I was young to addiction, so have a lot of compassion and understanding for the afflictions that we see in our community. So it's nice to see all of you, and happy to see new faces here too. Thank you.
Kevin.
Morning, Chief Kevin Turner with Ferndale Police, and I represent law enforcement for the small cities. Thank you.
Mike.
Yeah, good morning. Mike Hilly, the Emergency Medical Services Manager for the county. Been on the IPRFT, I think, coming up on 6 years now, where most of my work is over in the Behavioral Health Committee. So excited to move into 24 and work with this group. Thanks.
Hank.
I just joined, so if someone can update me in terms of what's going on right now.
Introductions.
Oh, thanks. Hi, I'm Donnell Tanksley. I'm the sheriff of Whatcom County and been part of the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force for a few years now. Started when I was the chief of police of Blaine, and I'm happy to be here.
You there, Jill? Maybe she got bumped off. Scott?
Scott Courthouse, Mayor, City of Linden, representing the Small Cities Mayors Group.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Perry.
Good morning, folks. Perry Mowry. I am a supervisor with the Response Systems Division, part of Whatcom County Health and Community Services. I act as the chair for the Crisis Stabilization Facility Subcommittee, and I've been a member of the Behavioral Health Subcommittee for, to my recollection, since about 2015. My background is in mental health work. I'm a certified substance use professional, and I came to the county in 2015 and I've been working with the task force since that time.
Peter.
Hi, everyone. I am a new member of the IPR, though I have been on the Behavioral Health Committee for some time. I was also on the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and on the Public Defenders Advisory Committee. And I was chair of the Yes, Safe Jail, Healthy Outcomes campaign, and very interested to be here. So thank you.
Raylene.
Raylene Houghton King, Superior Court, Whatcom County Clerk, formerly Court Administrator for the City of Blaine, and I've been with the county since November. And I've been on the task force since, I believe, 2016. And looking forward to more changes with new people and the people we've been working with. Thank you.
Rebecca.
Rebecca Mertzig, Chief of Police for the City of Bellingham, and I've been on this since June of 22 when I got hired.
Rosa.
Hi, Rosa Hunter. I'm new. I'm a felon. I think my crime was in 2007. I have a perspective that probably most likely none of you have. I'm now an environmental scientist, so I earned my degrees, and I'm actually worldwide known for my research. So please use me and talk to me, because I remember what it was like being in and what happens when you're out. And over 12 years later, it's still going to follow me. So thank you.
Tyler.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive for Whatcom County. Executive Sue can't make it today. He may be in a little bit later. He's out meeting with Lummi Nation on a couple of different items. Nice to be here. Been here since the beginning, and we'll be here for the next couple of months working hard on some of these items. Thank you.
Caleb.
Morning, everybody. I'm Caleb Erickson. I'm the Chief Corrections Deputy for the Sheriff's Office. I am the current co-chair of the Index Committee, and I've been doing that for a number of years, but I was part of the Index Committee before I was the co-chair, and I've been doing presentations and discussion with the task force for as long as it's been a task force.
I think that's everyone. If I've missed anyone, please raise your hand or unmute and speak up.
Peter, is that a second person in the conference room? Is that just an attendee, or is that a member?
He is an attendee. What's your name?
My name's Rich Berry, and I'm an author of a book called 101 Ways to Help the Homeless. And if I get the opportunity, I would give a few words.
Okay, we'll have public comment towards the end, and we'll call on you then. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Jill Nixon. I'm County Council Office Legislative Coordinator and Clerk for the IPRTF. And Jenna, you're last.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Gurnand. I work in the council office and support the task force. Thanks.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome all the new folks that are here. It's exciting to have new energy, and as we really get into the Justice Project deeper into the implementation plan. Our next item is the election of task force co-chairs. Now, I've been contacted by a number of you that had some concerns about, I mean, this is a process that we don't do very often. In fact, we did it for two people at the very beginning, and we haven't had to do that since. So I'm gonna, before we start the process, I'm gonna open it up to some of the concerns so we can hear, and maybe we can think about what our process is. I know, Dan, you mentioned something at the beginning, so let's start with you.
Okay. Thank you, Council Chair Buchanan. My concerns are that we delayed this process until the very 11th hour, and I'd like to make sure that we do this in a very deliberative fashion. And so my proposal is to elect two subcommittee chairs to chair the next meeting. Barry, if you're willing to chair this meeting, to chair the next meeting to allow for a process to happen for elections for the permanent, well, for the next round of co-chairs. That's my proposal, and I would elect myself and Raylene King or Caleb Erickson to be the next facilitators for the next meeting. And I've only talked to Chief Erickson. I've not talked with Ms. King about this.
So on the kind of the second piece of that, Dan, do you have any thoughts about a more thoughtful process going forward? I had mentioned something at the beginning that we could leave nominations open for the rest of the week, and then be able to collect information on the nominees so the task force has an opportunity to review qualifications. Do you want to speak to any part of that and what you're thinking maybe is a good process going forward?
Yeah, I'm totally amenable to having nominations come forward today if people are ready to nominate themselves or another person for this process. But I do think that we do need to take a month or so to kind of work this out, and I think that's a fair process.
Jill?
I just want to note for everyone, Caleb, as a valuable member of the task force larger community, he's not actually an IPRTF member. So if the full task force wants to elect him chair, there might need to be, I would have to think about this, but there might need to be a vote to allow non-IPRTF members to attend and be chair.
Can I follow up, Barry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jill Nixon, what's the charter say? What is the charter? What does it dictate? What's the authority here?
The rules of procedure for the task force are silent on that.
Okay. Then I would elect that at the next meeting. I would nominate myself and Raylene King if Raylene is so moved to do that. It's just one meeting, facilitating one meeting.
Okay, so with your motion, then you're also asking for a more protracted process as well, right? So we can kind of decide this all in one vote?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a second, first of all? Heather?
I'll second Dan's, but I also have some ideas.
Sure.
And questions. Do you want to take Dan's vote first, or can I add my?
Well, if you have discussion on the motion, that would be appropriate.
I am wondering if it's helpful. It would be helpful to me to know, like, what is the role of the chair? What are the expectations of the chair or co-chairs? Jill, is there anything in writing that we're committed to? And then what has the practice been? What's the time commitment? What are the attributes that we're really looking for in co-chairs or chairs? And I think that'd be really helpful just to understand that and level set. And then even that layer, Jill, like you just mentioned, of who is even eligible. What is our pool of candidates at the task force for chairs or co-chairs? And then I support Councilmember Hamill's recommendation for allowing some time for people to come forward to say either I'm interested or to nominate people too, of course, if they think they're good candidates.
Jill?
The rules of procedure for the task force are silent on the chair's duties. Following that, we would go to the Robert's Rules of Order, which are any silence is the next authority we would go to there. I can't quote Roberts here in this situation. I'd have to do a little research and come up with the rules and email everyone later on this week.
I know the one thing that we are not going to be having the chairs do is facilitating these meetings going forward, because of the idea of having a facilitator for both the J-POP and the IPTRF, at least for a couple of years, to get the J-POP up and running. So that's, Jill's been working on an RFP for that. So that, other than calling for votes and things like that, some of that would be excluded from duties. But yeah, Jill's right. It's silent on duty, so everybody has kind of waged their own way, and that's kind of the understanding of the role. Other discussion on Dan's motion? Arlene?
Yes, I think that it would take a commitment of being willing to go to meetings whenever they're called for, extra meetings too. And so that would be a time commitment.
And I know one other role is that the co-chairs are also invited to the planning team, to be members of the planning team as well.
Yes, that's what I mean. It would be extra meetings, additional. I really don't know how much time otherwise was required. But I saw Jack and Stephen give a lot of their time.
Yeah. Sheriff Tank?
Sure. I just want to be clear that the ask for Chief Erickson was that he co-host the next meeting, not that he be a chair. That's the way I understood the ask.
Yeah, I think Dan has now simplified the motion to have Raylene and Dan. And is that correct, Dan?
Right. I don't want to take, I understand that Chief Erickson's got his hands full with his new duties. And so I'm asking for one meeting to facilitate with myself and Raylene King, and to hold elections at that time, if it's deemed that we are prepared to do that.
Okay. Peter?
Probably not a big surprise to many of you here, but I'm interested in fulfilling one of those co-chair spots. And in doing so, I interviewed Stephen for about an hour and a half. And this goes to the question, what are the duties and how much time does it take, Heather? And it was very impressive to me how much time Stephen and Jack put into the role. I believe that they weren't officially on any of the subcommittees, but they often attended them. There was a lot of time and effort that goes into setting the agenda and doing research. And those of you who have been around longer than me know just how much work Stephen and Jack did. So I hope that's a little bit insightful.
Heather?
That's super helpful, of course. And I'm curious if there are any written rules or even just unspoken practices about, can elected officials serve as chairs? Can government employees serve as chairs? is the pool just the citizens and the organizational representatives, or are there rules at all about those different categories of appointments?
Rules of that type typically fall under the bylaws, and so it would be up to the task force to set its own rules on things like that. There are no legal restrictions of any kind of who can be appointed chair.
Other discussion on Councilmember Hamill's motion? Councilmember Hamel.
Yeah, I want to speak to Heather Flaherty's comments. I don't think it's appropriate for an elected official, including myself, to be a chair of this task force. I think that should come from a service provider or a civilian or some other entity. And I see Mayor Cortez maybe smiling in response to this question. I don't know if Mayor, if you have any comments on it, but I just don't think it's appropriate to have an elected serve in that role. And it's my opinion. That's it.
Scott?
Well, I was just, in my mind, we're maybe overthinking all this, but I'm in favor of doing the process that we're talking about, putting Dan and Raylene in charge for the next meeting, and then having some nominations today so we can start to vet people.
Raylene?
I am happy to assist at the next meeting if so be it, and everybody votes and approves that. Just moving forward and food for thought is, you know, we've got the committee updates, but Jack and Stephen were at the Index Committee, the Legal and Justice Systems Committee, the Crisis Stabilization Facility Committee, the Steering Committee, the Behavioral Health Committee. They were in a lot of meetings. And, you know, to be the chair is to make sure that we're hitting all the topics, kind of paying attention to the time, but allowing everybody to have their say on the different topics, at least from what I've seen in the past. So anybody that's interested, I think it would be beneficial for them to actually be able to see some of those other committees and be involved in those so they understand what they're actually taking on in the future. And, that's all I have. Thanks.
And as far as like agenda creation, there's some assistance that's given by the steering committee. When the steering committee meets, that's one of our agenda items is agenda items for the IPTRF main task force meeting. So there's some assistance there as well. Any further discussion on Dan's motion? All right, Raylene? Oh, old hand. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, please raise your virtual hand. Please keep them up. And Jill, let me know when you have a count.
Barry, if you could call for those both opposed and abstaining, that would be
Yeah, I
great.
was just waiting until you had a count.
Yeah.
You do have it.
Yes.
Okay, take your hands down, please. And all those opposed, please raise your virtual hand. I see no votes opposed. Are there any abstentions? I see no abstention. The motion carries. We will have our guest chairs for co-chairs for next meeting in March. And thank you, Dan and Raylene, for stepping up to do that. Raylene?
And just on a side note, Jill, if we could make sure that Stephanie Kraft gets invited to the next meetings, because she would be a representative juvenile as well as Superior Court admin. It'd be beneficial to see. I think some of the statutes actually require some of that, and it may be filled by Judge Jones, but at least to include her at the next few meetings, and then we can decide what her role needs to be. Thanks.
Mayor Corthi.
Yeah, hearing Peter a moment ago saying he would like the job, I'm gonna nominate him for the one of the co-chairs. I worked with him on the yes, safe jail, healthy outcomes, and he guided those meetings well. I think he would guide this meeting well.
Okay, do we have a second for that nomination?
Second.
Okay, that nomination has been made and seconded. We'll put that aside as a nominee. Are there other nominations from the floor? Or you can nominate yourself as well. Peter.
I have been getting to know Bertie Safford. She is a new committee member, but as she said in her introduction, she has been working on these topics for a long time, paying close attention. I have been very impressed with her. She has a real systems level view of things. She's a physician, has a lot of domain knowledge. And as an administrator of Family Care Network, she has seen the ins and outs of a lot of the systems that we're dealing with and some of the problems that arise. So I'd like to nominate Bertie Safford.
Okay, do we have a second for that nomination?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second for Bertie Safford. Anything else from the floor for today? Councilmember Hamel?
Chair, what's the process here for these nominations when it comes to the two that have been forwarded? How does this work?
Well, I think we're going to want to get maybe we should discuss that, what we want to get from the applicants or for the nominees. Do we want, what I would like to see, personally, I would like to see why they want the position and what they feel their qualifications are. That's something simple like that. But I want Jill to be able, I'm glad she raised her hand, as far as the timing and all that's up to her. So Jill?
I think it would be helpful for the task force to define whether or not nominations close today or close at a future date sometime between now and the March meeting, or if they will remain open in the March meeting.
Okay, so at this point, obviously nominations are still open. What's the will of the body? Council or Mayor Korthai?
I guess I'm who's not here today that might want it, I guess would be my question. Because that would be the only reason I'd want to leave it open.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Councilmember Hamel?
I think that we should leave it open. I don't see any reason to close it. Leave it up until the end of the next meeting, and that would allow for the mayor's concerns to be addressed and perhaps others here.
Okay, suggestion is to leave it open until the meeting that we actually vote. I'm fine with that. Raylene?
I concur with Hamel, Dan Hamel. Thanks.
You want to make that as a motion, Dan, so we have a record of
it? Yes, but according to Robert's rules, we have two motions on the table right now. Are we to dispose of those motions, or are we to allow a third motion and then introduce that at the next meeting? And I don't know what the rules are on that.
That's a good question. They're nominations and not specifically motions, but they by definition, I guess they are motions.
Well, they were moved and seconded. So do we?
They were nominated and seconded. They weren't moved, but I don't know what the difference is. Jill?
Okay.
Thank you. So the very first vote on Dan's motion was to hold all the nominations until March. So it's already been voted on to hold those nominations until then.
Okay. So that's where we are. We're holding nominations until the next meeting. And folks that want to nominate, please get your name in, and also your again, why you want the position and what you feel your qualifications are. If you could put that in an email to Jill, that would be awesome. Anything else on the elections? All right, thank you, everybody. The next is IPTRF committee schedules and sign up. Jill, are you leading this one?
Yes, thank you. I have the list of the current memberships of each committee. I'd like to screen share and then have you each let me know if there are any changes to this. Can you see my screen here? All right, we'll start with the Crisis Stabilization Facility Committee. If there are any changes to this, any additions, anyone who wants to be removed, please virtually raise your hand by selecting the raise hand icon. And I'm not seeing any hands raised. Thank you. Next is the Behavioral Health Committee membership. If you see any changes, additions, removals there, please virtually raise your hand. Feel free to interrupt me if you want me to go back as well. Next is the Legal and Justice Systems Committee. Any changes there? And
excuse me, Jill, I was raising my hand.
yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead and let me know.
I wanted to switch from the Legal and Justice Subcommittee to the Behavioral Health.
Okay, I can make that change. Thank you. Anything else, Deborah?
Oh, yes.
Is there anything else?
Nope.
Great, thank you. Raylene.
Yeah, if we can just include Stephanie Kraft on that meeting, that'd be great.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Anyone else for Legal and Justice Committee? Perry?
Jill, sorry, I didn't realize that we were, the steps that we were taking, and I don't know if this is appropriate, but I would like to recommend Melora Christensen, the Response Systems Division Manager for the Behavioral Health Committee.
Okay. Thank you, Perry. Dan?
I'm happy to accept that. I don't know if that's a nomination. And hey, Jill, can you back up real quick to go to the roster for the behavioral health, just real quick? Okay, you got Stephen in there. Okay, good. That's what I was checking for. So that's good. And we'll welcome Melora as well. Thank you.
Any other changes to Legal and Justice Systems Committee? And finally, Index Committee. Any changes there?
Hey, Jill, I just have one question for the Index Committee. Is that committee going to continue throughout 2024?
It does have a regular meeting schedule set of every other month through 2024. Yes. Meetings can be canceled at any time if there's not anything scheduled on the agenda or at the discretion of the chair.
Thank you.
Eric.
Yeah, can you add me to the Legal and Justice Systems Committee? If possible?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other changes? Okay, great. If someone can move to approve the list as shown in the packet with the changes mentioned today, and I can read those out if you like.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the subcommittee list. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, please lower your hand. Any opposed, please raise your virtual hand. Sheriff Tank, you oppose? Oh, no, you went down. I see no opposed. Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. That's it for that, right? Jill?
Index committee has changed its regular meeting schedule, so it doesn't conflict with the opioid MAC group. And we talked about changing the meeting from 1:30 to 3 to 2:30 to 3:30. And because the regular meeting schedule was approved by the task force in December or January now, it would requires an amendment to the regular meeting schedule for 2024. So we need a motion to change the index committee's regular meeting time to 2:30 to 3:30 p.m.
Does someone want to make that motion?
So move.
And a second? I'll second. We have a motion and a second to change that meeting time. Any discussion on that? Okay, see none. All those in favor, raise your virtual hand, please. You got it, Jill?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, please lower your hand, and all those opposed, please raise your virtual hand. I see no opposed. Any abstentions? Motion carries. That's it for that item, right, Jill?
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Okay. Next up is the Justice Project Implementation Plan. The planning team has been working on the JPOP, the formation of the JPOP and the process. I missed the last meeting. I was on travel. So I was wondering if someone like maybe Tyler Schroeder could talk about, especially when we're talking about the RFP, and Jill can weigh in too as well about the facilitation process that we're looking to have for the JPOP and the task force. So Tyler?
Well, yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Barry. I may have myself missed that last meeting.
Oh.
But Jill, why don't you, if you're able to, walk through the timeline and discussion that we've been going forward with the facilitation? I think that would be a helpful start, and then I can fill in the gaps.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And I believe you were both at the last planning team meeting, actually, because I got approval from you both on the draft scope of work for the facilitator. Essentially the facilitator will be taking on facilitation in all meeting organization roles for the new JPOP committee. It will, the person will put together meeting and orientation and onboarding documents for the new members, get the meeting schedule set up, attend every meeting, and facilitate each meeting. Additionally, the facilitator has been asked to attend and facilitate all the IPRTF meetings. And the facilitator will attend as needed the steering committee and the Justice Project planning team meetings. And the last major responsibility of the facilitator is to author the annual report and the 2-year reports. The term for this contract is going to be approximately April, whenever we can get someone on board, of this year through the end of next year, 2025. So 18 to 21 months. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Okay, thanks, Jill. Tyler, did you have anything you wanted to fill in?
The only other, there is a request out for the memberships of the JPOP, of the Justice Plan group, and I know that some applications have been submitted, but if anybody knows other members of the community that would be interested to be able to submit that to County Council. And then I did have a chance to sit down and kind of give some background on status of other items in the implementation plan and the updates associated with them with Peter Fraser. And last week, I think Jill sent out to the task force as a whole kind of a synopsis of where all of those items are at a very high level. And so I think that that would be helpful for the committee to take a look at. It really is just kind of a snapshot of the work that's been done from November until today, kind of moving along the 12 or 13 different items in the implementation plan. Might be something helpful to refer to. And Jill, I think that was sent out to the whole task force, or was that just to the Behavioral Health Committee?
Sorry, Tyler, can you tell me again which?
Yeah, the Justice Project Implementation Plan, just kind of execution update that Peter Fraser put together after discussing with myself and Kayla in the executive's office.
Yeah, I will
think
send
maybe
that
that
out.
went to the Behavioral Health Committee members, but I think it would be helpful for the whole task force to take a look at that document.
Correct, thank you. I'll send that out.
Great.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Raylene?
Thank you. Judge Jonathan Rands has asked about the justice implementation and was hoping to be somewhat involved or to be able to give some feedback as we proceed. So we can possibly give him information on that would be beneficial.
Okay, we'll dial him into the loop. Anything else on the implementation plan for the Justice Project? Okay, we'll move to the proposed county council resolution identifying Whatcom County approaches to the fentanyl emergency. A little background on this: Councilmember Ellenboss and I started working with Lummi Nation and consequently with Nooksack as well on really ramping up the awareness and the kind of the level of effort around fentanyl and in our community. Excuse me. We started out with 2 requests, one to the governor and one to the president and Congress, wanting both a national declared emergency for fentanyl and a state declared emergency for fentanyl. That's what we've been working on with Lummi Nation. But what we are also proposing is a county emergency declaration that we need your help in filling in some of the action items that we think are going to be helpful should we get an emergency declared. So what we're asking today is just that you take a look at this resolution. It's really bare bones. It's on purpose. So we are going till the end of March with this. At our health board meeting, I believe it's on the 26th of March, we'll be voting on the resolution. We've convened a number of workshops. We had one last Friday with the health department and the executive's office. We're doing more this week. We're doing law enforcement and the prosecutor's office and one other one, I believe. But the idea is to collect thoughts about what some of these action items can be that we can get out of a emergency declaration, as well as looking at the things and identifying unintended consequences and those types of things that sometimes can come up when you do items like this. So we want a lot of thought put into this. So if you could review what you see and just add some of these action items that you think would be important. Any questions on that? Back when we were in DC, we got a lot of support for our state and federal resolutions that have already been passed. Lummi has been using it as a template as they go around the state and around other states to asking other governments to do this. I think Seattle has adopted Whatcom County's resolution asking for the state to declare an emergency. So it's really getting some traction nationwide. I had a lot of discussions at the NACO conference that it was like, hey, this is a great idea. Give us what you have so we can do the same thing in our community. So anyway, that's where we are with that. Dan?
Thanks, Chair. So NACO, just for folks on the call that are new to that. It's National Association of Counties that's been doing some really good work. And the chair, myself, and others have were on a MacArthur Foundation grant a few years ago to address young adult incarceration. My question, though, Chair, is what's the actionable item that a declaration of an emergency can provide? Is it funding? Is it resources? Like what happens when that declaration happens? Can you just go into a little more detail on that?
Well, hey, that's what we're asking for, ideas of what some of those action items are at a more specific level. I think in general, yes, it's funding. What kind of opportunities can be opened up should the feds and the state declare an emergency? Whatcom County wants to be ready with our own declared emergency so we can utilize those funding lanes. So that's one thing. The other thing is really raising the community awareness of this and getting it out into the public so the public understands this crisis. So those are two of my big goals, but that's why we need help. We need some specificity around those action items. That's why we've convened these workshops.
Hey, Chair, can I follow up real quick? I know
Sure.
that I see Peter Fraser's hands up, but I want to ask a follow-up question. Do you know what what the ODs are, your response teams, your first responders? Do you know how many ODs that you're seeing out there in the county per day?
I don't have that at my fingertips, but I'm sure the health department or maybe Mike Hilly could weigh in. He's right there on the front lines.
Yeah, thank you. We are averaging about 5 overdoses of various types per day in the county. We do have spikes, sometimes up to 10 or 11. Now, remembering that data are the EMS engagements on that number. There are others that we don't see come into the EMS system. And we do have a dashboard up on the EMS site if you'd like to look at what the trend was for the last year as well as the monthly on those overdose per days.
It'd be helpful to have an overall view of what those ODs look like. I spoke with Division Chief Rickman last week, and he said 3.5 ODs per day on the fire side. I see the chief here, our PD chief. I don't know if that number is reflective of what PD is seeing, but it'd be helpful to understand what that complete picture looks like. Chief, I don't know. I saw you turn your camera on. Do you have a sense of what that looks like?
I was told there'd be no math today, Dan.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm looking at Allison sends me the overdose stats they have from Whatcom, which is where all they're the PSAP, so that's where all the 911 calls are coming into. And so the looks like county-wide overdoses in 24 at 82, and the city of Bellingham's portion of that is 64. So got to do the math for that. So to get the counties year to date. Just want to make sure there isn't other data. That's yeah, I think that's the most recent. Oh no, that's January. No.
So I think I think it'd be helpful for the Behavioral Health Committee to have some kind of clearinghouse data when it comes to what we're seeing both in the city and in the county, and I want to make sure that we're up to date so the members of that committee can have that information. And
I can send this to whoever. I mean,
okay. And thus make recommendations to not just the county council, but also, we're going to be taking this data to the city as well. Thanks.
Peter.
Barry, can you just give a little bit of historical context for emergency declarations that we've had at the county level before, and any thoughts you have on how this works strategically for us? I heard you say that, I know you're proposing a national emergency declaration and a statewide one, and maybe the county one is being done kind of to set up a chain so that if there is national and state declarations, money can flow to the county. I just love to hear anything you have to say on the subject.
Well, you have the basic concept correct. Yes, that it does open those lanes. As far as historical, the only ones that I'm real familiar with is obviously COVID, which had a lot of very specific health elements that we were getting a lot of direction from elsewhere, CDC and so on. The other one is, of course, the flood of 21. That was an emergency. But again, very specific needs, very kind of known. You need sandbags, you need, to relocate people. There was some pretty obvious things. This one here has got, I think, more open questions. That's why we're taking our time in developing the resolution, because especially in the unintended consequences piece, we want to make sure we're not working counterproductive to ourselves in any way. That's why we want all these stakeholders to weigh in to make sure we're not doing that. I don't know if that answers your question fully, Peter, but I don't know much more in a historical context other than that. Okay, thanks. Heather?
Harry, are you asking for feedback today, or are you asking for us to send you feedback?
I think it'd be better just to send it, rather than taking up a bunch of time today.
Okay.
Probably be more productive. Really?
I will.
Oh, go ahead.
I would love to send you some feedback. I just want to say for the record that I don't see enough resources for treatment to build local effective treatment options. And I'll be sending some thoughts on that to you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Raylene?
So as we're gathering data and wanting to make comments, it'd be nice because fentanyl is different than what we've seen before for drugs, but to collect data on impacts of people that have overdosed on it more than once, because now they know that Narcan is effective in bringing people back, and how that affects and impacts somebody's mental health, because of the lack of oxygen that's been depleted when they've overdosed the first time, but know that they can come back, do it again, and be brought back. Sometimes they don't get brought back, but the impacts of the mental health on individuals that have overdosed and came back, and statistics on those that have actually died from it if they've overdosed in the past before. Those are things I'd like to see as we move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, boy, Raylene, the story that we got in the MAC group, describing someone that had come in, at 9 p.m. with an overdose, and they were Narcan back, and they were back at 11, Narcan back, and then they were dead at 6 a.m. So that is a tragedy that people are ending up in that terrible cycle. Anything else? Okay, let's move to committee updates. Index committee.
Good morning, everybody. We met, goodness, when did we meet? I don't see a date. It was a time in February. February 1st. Apologize for that. Just had to scroll a little bit on my notes. So we met, initially discussed leadership change, and the decision that we made was that I do not have the capacity with my work going on now to continue to function as chair. And so we'll be stepping back from leadership of the next committee, but I will continue to lend my support as a partner in data collection moving forward. And Peter Frazier offered to take over as committee chair. We just decided to discuss that at this stage, which we've done. Also gave a kind of an update of where we've been as a committee and where I think we're headed as a committee. So talked a lot about the historical work of the index committee going back to early days of creating reports that were emailed out to various partners and stakeholders in the criminal justice system, and then moving forward to creation of websites and what we've got in the future, which is a dashboard that is community facing, stemming from an idea that Heather and Flaherty came up with, looking at other organizations that had dashboard statistical data on people who are in custody, and it will actually, hopefully in the near future, expand to include all types of information for sheriff's office related content. So that is about it. Did I miss anything? Anybody was there, and anybody have any questions about it? Not seeing
All
it.
right, thanks, Caleb. Next up is legal and justice systems.
Thank you, Barry. The Legal and Justice Committee met on February 13th. We had a guest speaker and we intertwined that with civil and criminal for prevention, as the importance of legal representation for domestic violence survivors in civil matters has a direct impact on criminal domestic violence cases, because some of the most common barriers to leaving a violent relationship include fear of violence, economic dependence, fear of losing custody of children, being able to protect children from violence. Perpetrators of domestic violence often make threats related to these fears to coerce survivors in staying, and access to civil legal assistance is constantly listed as one of our top local unmet needs for supporting domestic violence survivors. Therefore, Judge Jennifer Forbes with Kitsap County is assisting in some pilot programs throughout the state for unrepresented litigants by doing these 2 pilot programs. There is one currently in Grays Harbor and there's one in Spokane. They accrued, I believe, about $525,000 to start these programs. They're able to, facilitator is not able to provide legal advice and they're limited to court rules, but they do have self-help centers that provide legal assistance to unrepresented litigants across a variety of case types. The one in Grays Harbor has 1 full-time facilitator and 1 contract attorney that serves about 150 clients per month. And they're working on self-help centers across the state to assist those that are unrepresented. So that was pretty much the bulk of that meeting. We did include a little bit on the end of what we were going to submit for the agenda for the joint meeting of behavioral health and legal and justice. Thank you. Any questions? Dan.
Hey, Raylene, do you, I wanted to just go back to that Grays Harbor piece. Do you see, so Grays Harbor has one of the highest rates of ODs in Washington State, and I'm wondering if you see any correlation between DV, you know, charges and any drug use, or is that data not present?
You know, I don't know if that data is present, but just looking back on a lot of domestic violence cases, you do see substance abuse strongly correlated with those cases. So, I mean, we can look and see if we can get that data, but I don't have it right now.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Raylene. Any other questions? All right, we'll go to Crisis Stabilization Facility. Perry?
Good morning again, Perry Mowry. The Crisis Stabilization Center, the Ann Deacon Center for Hope a subcommittee met on the 15th of February. The agenda touched on reviewing the census for 2023, increased use of law enforcement of the facility, also implementing just streamlining the process for law enforcement and first responders, as well as touching base on 12-hour law enforcement holds. Just real quickly, our census for 2023 in detox was a 76% bed utilization, 898 unduplicated individuals that received detox services. For mental health stabilization, it was 61% bed utilization, 988 unduplicated individuals that received services. We saw an increase in law enforcement use, in my opinion, that had in part to do with law enforcement representation at our monthly meetings that we have, Crisis Stabilization Center Advisory Committee meetings. And law enforcement is represented there. In 2022, law enforcement drop-off was 55 individuals. And in 2023, that increased to 101 individuals that were dropped off via law enforcement. We continue to work on implementing the streamlined drop-off, just concerns in terms of law enforcement being at the facility longer than they should be because they need to be out and responding to calls. We've done a couple of different steps, one of them being printed up visor cards for law enforcement and first responders. So they have a quick reference. It's something that can be in the card. It's a hard copy card with phone numbers and just the steps that take place. We talked a bit about some of the challenges with 12-hour law enforcement holds and also listed a number of steps that are going on. I think that folks are aware, but the county is the owner of the facility, and there are two providers providing the services that have rent that they pay to provide those services. Pioneer Human Services provides detox, and Compass Health provides mental health stabilization. We continue to work closely with those providers on a couple of different levels, just as a liaison between the county and the providers, as well as just working on barriers relative to their utilization of services, availability, continued upgrade of census, those sorts of things. So that's a high-level overview of the service. We do meet quarterly for this particular subcommittee, just in terms of the information that is available and shared. Thoughts, comments, questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Perry. Next committee is the steering committee. We have dealt with everything that was on our steering committee agenda. We talked about the leadership and the committee structure, the Justice Project, of course, and then the resolution that we just talked about. Does anybody from steering have anything they want to emphasize from our last meeting? Okay, we'll move to behavioral health.
Okay, I think that's me. I think that Perry covered a lot of the topics. So the two agenda items that we had on February 20th were Ann Deacon Center for Hope utilization, underutilization, and the Justice Project implementation. Those are the two items that we had talked about. We spent a lot of time on the Ann Deacon Center. We had Bellingham Fire, Bellingham PD, Sheriff's Office, Response Division, personnel, the Health Department folks. I'm probably forgetting a couple here, but basically, I think the main tone and tenor was that we have a very excellent facility that is based on the census numbers that Mr. Mowry just put forward, that we're using it, but we're not using it at its full capacity. And I think that was the one of the main issues coming from first responders. We've had Bellingham has had issues in terms of getting placements in that facility. And it's a lot of like civil, like self referrals basically to that facility. And I think that my perception is that we're underutilizing, and we could really be using that facility more. And that was really the feedback that we got from first responders. And I wanted to thank Peter Frazier for being a facilitator in that discussion. I'll end there, that we've got more work to do on that item. Second item was the Justice Implementation Project, and Mr. Frazier was able to present, but we basically kind of ran out of time, and there was maybe like a 5-minute presentation. So we've got more work to do when it comes to talking about that long range plan that we have in place right now. So I want to I just want to turn it over to Peter Fraser. If you have any additional comments on the Justice Project implementation plan, if you want to like briefly just kind of update what your perspective was on that one.
Oh, I think everybody's going to be receiving the report from Jill. So I think everybody can read it. Tyler and Kayla did a great job with updating me. It's a very high level update. I'm feeling confident that we're headed in the right direction. That here 2 months into the year, the county has put forth a lot of effort in their year one goals. There are certain concerns that I've expressed in that report that I would like to highlight. So, yeah, that's about it. And I really appreciated everybody's participation last week in the open and honest way that they talked about the Ann Deacon Center. And if I were law enforcement or EMS walking away from that meeting, I think that they might have some concerns that we don't yet have a facility that allows them to drop off in the way that they need and expect. So we've definitely got work to do.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. That's Chair. That's end of committee report from Behavioral Health.
Well, thanks to Dan and Peter for that report. Any questions? Okay, any other business for this morning? Okay, we'll go to public comment. We have one person in our conference room. We'll go to him first. Please keep your remarks to 3 minutes. And Jill, we don't have to enable you. Your mic's probably already on, so go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for your service. And thank you, Peter, for letting me sit next to you. I just have a little story about a person I met walking along Squalicum Park, or Squalicum along the water. And he just happened to be living in the bushes. And I went and talked to him for a bit, and I asked him, well, why are you here? And he said, well, it was a process. And, at the end of the day, one day they decided to go out with his buddies for a drink. And they went on a Friday. And then it became at the end of each day. And it was something for him to look forward to, kind of like a reward for all of his hard work. And I would just introduce that a lot of people, they look for a reward in their lives as well as respect. And the process of building a jail isn't just to build a jail. You have to think of, well, you have to take care of the jail, and you have to think long-term. Well, what's the reason for the jail? And I just want to tell you that each person is very important and needs to be respected and understood. I've worked with the Nooksacks and the Lummies since the early 90s, as well as the homeless and also people in jail. And there's a lot of problems and a lot of people that will continue to give you problems or try to work the system. But if they are given the opportunity to be shown respect as well as rewards, they could be a part of your system of creating the jail. And to do that, there would need to be a democratic process where they, even in the jail system, even in the jails, they would have the opportunity for input in the building process. I'm a contractor, but being able to actually be part of the work, part of the input, and part of the rewards, and things that they can be given to show that they can do something. And it's been done in schools. It's been done in colleges, a lot of, in England, a lot of schools that are boarding schools. They have a system where the kids are given an allowance. And if there's problems, well, they have a school system, they have a student government that brings together. And of course, there's a couple of wise teachers that oversee things, but the same thing can be done in the jail system. And that would alleviate a lot of pressure, but it'd also give the people respect, because each person is special in their own way. And you can see that if you have the opportunity to get to know them. So.
Harry, you're muted. I'm going to go ahead and call on our virtual attendees for public comment. If any of you would like to speak to the task force, please virtually raise your hands now. Go ahead.
Hi, was I called on yet?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ying Wu. I'm a recently retired family physician, currently working as an intern at the Chuck and Health Foundation. In preparing for this meeting, I came across a document you might find useful. You may all already be familiar with this, but if you search under Seattle Challenge Emergency Room, you'll come to an article they've published called Emergency Rooms at the Epicenter, which is reasonably well researched, has a lot of useful case studies, and they're focused on emergency room utilization, but a lot of what they are saying is very applicable to the work of the task force.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. Anyone else, Jill? Jill, are you there?
Raised from our attendees.
You're breaking up really bad.
Can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
No other hands are raised from our attendees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, everybody, for the good of the order, we
Barry,
have Birdie.
Barry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
You're muted.
Yep. Okay. I just wanted to quickly thank Deborah Hawley for sending around the articles that she did. I think, first of all, they were timely and relevant. And I think the more we can share information like that with each other, it helps inform us. So I appreciate you taking the initiative.
Thank you.
Deborah?
Hang on. Oh my God. It's been a hard Monday morning for me. I thank you very much for that. These articles are really important. I get quite a bit of them coming in my inbox. And I first of all wanted to thank the attendee that gave us a compelling description and information about the homeless population. Interestingly enough, on Friday, I attended a wonderful presentation that Skagit Valley College, through their Human Services Department, who was the sponsor of this event, put on regarding, I think I'm paraphrasing, it was on current trends in reentry and barriers to reentry. It was 3 hours long. It had panels of formerly incarcerated people who, I don't want to go on and on. But anyway, some of them had gone into the human services program at Skagit Valley College, and they had graduated. And there was just so many stories. So getting back to what I was going to ask the attendee that was talking about homeless population individuals, I would like to know if I could be provided through email or at a later date, or if anyone here knows, what is the percentage of people admitted to the jail who are currently homeless? I was wondering about that. And then in conclusion here, I just wanted to say that I did go up to several people, including a judge in Skagit County who's currently operating the community, what they have this Monday morning is turning out to be a disaster. Anyway, they have a community court, so it's a little bit different than our mental health court here in Whatcom County and drug court. I asked her if she would like to address our task force meeting via Zoom, and she said she's absolutely interested. I'm sorry I don't recall her name at the moment. I don't have it in front of me. And there was a couple other very interesting presentations that I think the task force would want to hear about. Anyway, so just wanted to throw that out there, and could work on getting those people scheduled with Raylene or and Jill, whoever does that at some future date. All right, thank you.
Heather?
I can answer, at least according to the 2022 survey that the Stakeholder Advisory Committee conducted. 73% of the surveyed inmates were either homeless or couch surfing with friends and family in our jail. Also of note, 48% had a diagnosis of a serious mental illness, and approximately 80 to 85% of the offenders have issues with substance abuse. So 73% is what last surveyed were experiencing homelessness before they came to our jail.
Thanks, Heather. Deborah?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for that. I completely forgot about that was brought up. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, we'll see you next month. We're adjourned.